Oh my gosh, behold!
Would you look at the size
Of that bicycle! It's enormous. It's gargantuan.
And it's not at all what I was expecting to see today, but I'll take it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in Port Byron, Illinois, on the west coast of Illinois.
Standing on the shores of Old Man River.
Yes, sir, we've once again reached the mighty Mississippi.
I woke up this morning in Michigan, drove all the way across Michigan,
Down across Indiana and all the way across Illinois. And I'm about to cross over to the further shore across the Mississippi River.
but before we take that historic step,
How could I not stop in Port Byron
and take a look at this huge bicyclist up here,
30 feet tall? That is 6 alleys tall, who is apparently named Will Be Rolling. A gentleman who came out of a bar across the street told me that this thing was built to promote some sort of annual bicycle event here, and proudly informed me that Will Be Rolling cost $60,000. That's 10 times what I paid for my van, and probably a lot more mechanically reliable.
Oh, there we go. There's a little plaque on the back. You can see right there, it says Will Be Rolling.
And I believe the type of bicycle he's on is called a penny farthing, although I don't know the difference between penny farthings and bone shakers. All those old-fashioned bicycles have various names, but what I do know is that I like looking at this guy. He looks super happy, and that bicycle must be pretty easy to ride because he doesn't look tired at all. Unlike me, I'm pretty exhausted now after driving across 3 states,
So it's probably a good time to get moving and cross the shore.
over to Iowa.
Ah, yes, friends, try to excuse the bug-spattered road warrior windshield here and celebrate with me.
Because at long, long last, we've done it.
We've brought the van back to the west side of the old Mississippi.
Sure, it's not all the way back in California yet, but being on the home side of the Mississippi River feels like a mighty achievement after all we've been through together.
Definitely feels like something to celebrate.
Cigars and brandy for everyone. Actually, if we did want to celebrate, there's probably not many better places to do it
Than the town we've just landed in.
LeClaire, Iowa.
Look at this place. It is absolutely gorgeous. Picturesque. Little shops everywhere.
It sits right on the edge of the Mississippi River, and
I'm already seeing tons of stuff I like. Look at these big feet right here. Aw. And how about this minion right here? There's a fine piece of folk art. He's riding some kind of bug. Looks like a former heater and a beer keg have been renewed into this piece of art. It's a little scary looking, honestly.
ugh, I can't believe I've never been here before.
They've got wine shops and coffee shops and chocolate shops.
Restaurants and candles and bed and breakfasts.
Fantastic architecture.
Even a little popcorn shop. But far and away, what I've seen the most of
Are several, seriously, numerous antique shops.
But that's sort of exactly what I was expecting to find in LeClaire, because this town, although it has many interesting things,
like these river boats here
and a Buffalo Bill Museum, which I'm hoping to see tomorrow. He was actually born here in LeClaire. This town is definitely best known today for being the home
of the American pickers. Behold, antique archaeology as seen on the History Channel.
Dude, this feels so weird to be here in real life. I've seen a lot of filming locations, of course, with my own eyes, but this one is particularly strange. You think you know what it looks like, you know, because seeing the show on TV so often in hotel rooms and whatnot. I don't have cable at home. Then you turn around and you notice you're behind a gas station right here. That's something you never see on TV. Now, obviously, the store is closed at the moment, but I believe it's been open since the year 2000 out here, started by Mike Wolf for real.
And then, of course, used as the HQ in the TV show American Pickers for years. And look at that. There's an antique archaeology van right over there.
It's very strange, and I feel kind of creepy being here after closing, but it's supposed to be gray and overcast tomorrow, and I thought I'd like to take my first look, you know, in some nice sunshine.
Plus, I've heard conflicting information as to whether or not they really allow cameras in there, particularly when people are trying to film things.
And that's true of most places where they film TV shows, like Pawn Stars, for example. You cannot whip out a camera inside of that store in Las Vegas. There's probably good reasons to do with contracts and exclusivity and production companies and TV networks and promotion and yada yada.
So probably better to make our first stop out here this evening while no one's around and just take a little peek outside.
I'll tell you this, that is a much smaller building in person than it looks like
on TV. It is smaller than a modern oil change place, that is for sure. I believe it used to be a fabrication shop or something like that. And who knows which van they're using in the TV show these days, but this little Ram ProMaster looks pretty stubby. Pretty small, actually. Wow, that is cool peeking through the windows. You may be surprised to hear this, but I don't actually watch that much current television. Like I said, I don't really have cable. I have a couple of streaming services and stuff, but whenever I do get a chance to watch a little boob tube, American Pickers is definitely one that I will sit and watch. I mean, from the first time I even saw an episode, I was like, dang, now that would be a sweet gig. I was touring in bands, I believe, when that show started still. So, you know, I've always had that thing of being a road dog and loving the road, so that show really hit the spot. It combined all the things I love, being on the road, American history, antiques. Don't tell Mike Wolf this, but I've never ridden a motorcycle, so those parts of the show kind of go over my head, like all the motory stuff. I love driving cars, but I don't know anything about how they're made. I don't know anything about engines. But that's the cool part about shows like that, is that even if you know nothing, you can learn quite a lot. All right, I've had enough peeking through the windows. The shop only just closed as we were rolling into town, so it feels like someone's gonna pop out at any second that was closing up and be like, hey, what are you doing here? Get out of here! I know my dad and my brother really enjoy that show also, so I'll definitely come back in here tomorrow, try to pick up some antique archaeology swag and let you know how it is in there. Which will be extra easy, because I'm actually staying right in town, right down there by the river. So we'll head back up here before that museum in the morning. Oh, look at this. Julio looks every bit as psyched as I knew he would be to be out here. He is a huge fan of antique archaeology. Not because of the TV show, though, because of the logo. Don't say anything, but he thinks that's him. What? I wasn't saying anything. Oh, dude, I've never been so grateful to get to a hotel, let me tell you. Although I did notice Mike Wolf posted a picture of this old building on Instagram that they're going to restore into a guest house, which would be awesome. I'd rather stay there, but it's not finished yet. Oh, I have so much more to say, but it'll have to wait until tomorrow, guys. I am so tired. Time to hotel and sleep well. And it's wake-up time. Time to rise and shine. Awfully moist out there today. But there's nothing like waking up by the side of the mighty Mississippi. All right, now back to American Pickers land. I still can't get over how it's behind this gas station that you never see on TV. Oh, those clever, clever cameramen. All right, let's start off with that main building again. All right, I'm gonna make it quick in here, just because I'm still sort of unclear on what's allowed or not allowed, but as you can see, pretty awesome, man. How come when I pile up old stuff, it just looks like junk, but in here it looks so rad? Actually, I'm seeing stuff I recognize from the show, like little Johnny over there, and in the little front office you can see the heads, the Laurel and Hardy heads that Frank and Mike got on the show. There's actually a lot more actual antiques for sale in here than I ever thought possible. All right, let's go and check out the other building now, the bigger one. Oh, dude, it is large in here. There's a lot of stuff. Still a lot of antiques. Plenty that are not for sale, by the way, but plenty that are, including some really random smalls, as they call them on the show. But as I suspected, a wide variety of merchandise and t-shirts. Enough to get a t-shirt for the whole fam. This would be a cool store anywhere, even if it wasn't on TV. Definitely recommended. Got a couple of nifty gifties here for my dad, brother, mom, Allie, all of my family members who like the show. They have a lot of merchandise in there that says, I picked the Pickers. But really, considering how heavy this bag is and how low on funds I am, I think they picked me. All right, and now back to the riverside so we can quickly get a sneaky, cheeky peek at the Buffalo Bill Museum. I actually don't know all that much about William Cody, except for, of course, now that he was born here, that he was the greatest showman of his age. But that's why I like little museums like this, because I get a chance to learn something new. Look at this little one-room schoolhouse replica. This must be where they teach picking. I'm learning so much. Oh my gosh, I wonder who tried to do this. For every sign with a weird rule, there's a dummy who broke it once. Whoa, it's like a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside in here. There's a lot more stuff in here than I expected. Here's an exhibit about the local inventor who invented the black box, the flight recorders. Creepy dolls. No local museum would be complete without those. A desk that might have belonged to Abraham Lincoln. A fun children's room. I'm having lots of fun. There are so many rooms, so many artifacts, and there are
so many history displays in here. I wish I had more time. Well, at least I know now that if I ever get to come back here, I'll have plenty to look at, and I definitely need to read up on Buffalo Bill. Let's not kid ourselves. The main reason I wanted to come into this museum wasn't to see anything about Buffalo Bill. It was to see this. Wow. By the ghost of Mark Twain, would you look at the size of this? This 1890 riverboat here called the Lone Star was the last one left with a wood hull on the Mississippi River and wasn't decommissioned till 1968. You can see she's undergone some modifications over her many, many years of service. But this is an authentic Mississippi River steamboat. And as a huge fan of Mark Twain and tales of the old Mississippi, even though this boat was built a little bit after Mark Twain's days on the river, I am super psyched to see this thing and climb all over it. Oh my gosh. This is awesome. Look at it. There it is. The pilot house. That would be the guy who steers the boat. I've never got to stand inside an authentic Mississippi River steamboat pilot house before. But if you've ever read Mark Twain's Life on the Mississippi, you'll know why I find this so thrilling. And look at that. The muddy Mississippi is right out the window. I would love to ride down the Mississippi on this thing. You're so high up here in the pilot house, so high up from the level of the river. It makes you feel like some sort of god among mortals. This is incredible. I am blown away by this. Oh, check it out. It's the crew cabin for the pilot over here. Look at the doorway that led up to the pilot house. This deck was called the Texas deck. When steamboats made overnight trips, they would actually sleep aboard in shifts. Now, this isn't one of those huge riverboats from way earlier. Biggest boats would have had gambling casinos and staterooms, and they were very richly decorated. Ooh, this one says the pilot's cabin. Guess I was wrong. The pilot sleeps in the fanciest, biggest cabin at the back. Ooh, look at that. He even has his own mirror. In their heyday, steamboats were known as floating palaces. And Mark Twain made the point that sure, they weren't like a rich, lavish hotel in New York or London or Paris, but to the backwoods people living along the shores of the Mississippi River and the Mississippi Valley at that time, living in cabins with dirt floors, you know. The scruffy folk, some of them were palaces indeed. Whoa, look at the size. Low bridge. Look at this giant boiler. Correction. 2 boilers. Wow. Imagine how hot it would have been in here and how many times you would have hit your head on any given trip. This is awesome. It's hard to believe that this boat, which is primarily made of wood and paint, plied the waters for 78 years. This is incredible, getting to walk all over this thing and see all of the intact equipment, the engine stuff. Oh, and don't worry, I checked. They have the most important piece of equipment. A toilet on board. This is the coolest thing ever, and if you ever get a chance to come here, I highly recommend it. It only costs $5. And the smell, something about that smell is wonderful. Add this to my list of favorite stops. I would like to spend some more time on the Lone Star, but unfortunately, I've got to be moving on. I've got a long way to go to get to California, and if I'm ever gonna make it there, one thing's for sure, I am going to need a lot of gas. So I'm heading east out of LeClaire because I can't think of anywhere better to get that fuel than an old favorite stop I haven't been to for years. The world's largest truck stop, also known as Iowa 80. This place is enormous. It sits on over 200 acres, gets 5,000 visitors a day, has multiple buildings, endless row upon row of trucks parked outside idling, which is why it's so loud. It was started by a fella named Bill Moon in the mid-1960s, and this main building has something like 67 or 68,000 square feet of reasons to pull over. All right, let's get inside. Out of this noise. Dude, it has been a long time since I have been in this place, but I've never forgotten it, and how could anyone forget it? I mean, look at the size of it. It's like the Bass Pro Shops for truckers. They have everything in here that a trucker might ever need. Look at that, DVDs, little fridges for the cab, musical instruments, truck parts, sunglasses, safety gear, camo stuff, clothing, Bibles, and most attractively, a lot of stuff to pimp your ride with. Dude, have you ever seen this many headlights and taillights and blinkers? There's millions of them. I'm getting oversteered.
stimulated. Oh, sick. Eagle. Look at this huge revolving turntable with a truck on it. That is unbelievable. Look at this thing turning. They could park the Batmobile on this. Dude, this is impressive. Look at that gargantuan wall of lights. I've never seen so many truck accessories in my life. Steering wheels and the like. Look at that front grills. They've got everything. And this is just the truck part. There's even more stuff in the other part of the building for the civilian traveler. Inside this place is room after room of every souvenir imaginable. From skull t-shirts to moccasins, Zippos and miniature guitars, cowboy boots and hats, biker gnomes. They have got it all. Plaid shirts, a pig bench for fun pics, bathrobes and mugs and slippers and pajamas. Okay, I better stop. There's a huge restaurant in here called the Iowa 80 Kitchen that even has an old international truck inside of it. Look at that. Gas globes over the window, plenty of coffee at the bar, pies in the case. But if you don't feel like pie, that's okay. Just go past the full-on U.S. Army Jeep into the food court. Look at the size of this place. I see coffee and bagels, Dairy Queen, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, Wendy's. Plenty of seating for all, even though they get 5,000 visitors a day. There's an arcade in here with the world's largest Pac-Man. Thank goodness I ran out of quarters from doing laundry in the hotel. And just so much more. Everything a regular gas station would have times a million. You had better be prepared if you bring your kids in here, though. Better hand them their souvenir money, because it seems like in every nook and cranny, they've stashed candy, snacks, t-shirts, and an unbelievable amount of toys. There's toys everywhere, guys. Everything from stuffed animals to rubber band guns to giant checkers on the floor. They've got your dancing musical cactus, your talking animal head things. It is glorious. Look at this. We got rubber chickens, fireman outfit sets, animals and mermaids and circular Beanie Baby things. And then upstairs, the secret world of the trucker with the shower, dentist, laundry, chiropractor, theater, and even a barber that I hear can cut a mean mullet. All of this would be worth stopping for in its own right, but this is not all. Because the best part of the world's largest truck stop, the part that I never got a chance to see before, is something most people miss because it's in an entirely separate building on the property which the Moon family constructed at the world's largest truck stop. They're absolutely gigantic trucking museum. I'd just like to point out that this complex is so huge that I drove over here instead of walking. Never had time to see the museum when I was on tour back in the day, so I am stoked about this. Oh, wow. Already. Wow. You never think about trucks going so far back that they look like old-timey wagons. This is already unbelievable, and we are just in the foyer. Just wait until you see the main hall. Mother trucker. This is the mother lode of freaking trucks. If we weren't at the world's largest truck stop and I hadn't seen all those trucks outside, I would say that this is the most trucks I've ever seen in one place in my life. Look at this beautiful 1944 Coca-Cola delivery truck. That is beautiful. That is like a work of art. And there are so many other pieces in here like that. Look at how beautiful some of these things are. I can't imagine living in a time where this was normal and a common sight. I always wonder when I see things like this, did the people that lived in this time appreciate the design of these things? Or were they just background noise like the way we would look at a modern truck? 'Cause I don't think I can ever recall a time where I looked at a modern semi-truck especially, or fuel or delivery truck, and thought, wow, that looks cool. To me, they're just sort of, like I said, background noise, just bog standard, boring. But back in the day, boy, trucks were things of beauty. Look at this old paddy wagon right here. That's literally what this is. Oh, you've been acting up there, boys. Into the paddy wagon with you. Here we have a 1930 Ford snowmobile. I have never heard of such a thing in all my life. Got everything from the kind you start up with a crank to those beautiful streamlined noses, German military trucks, whatever this beautiful thing is. There doesn't seem to be any kind of strict timeline or strict rhyme or reason for the order. You know, they don't appear to be in chronological order, but that makes it even more fun because every next truck over is a surprise. I cannot get over the scale of this place. It is absolutely massive, and I know there's other people in here because I can hear them from time to time, but I still haven't seen one. What do you think these old, vintage, old-timey trucks get in terms of gas mileage? Some of them are probably way heavier than our modern pickup trucks, but other ones look pretty lean and mean. They probably can't be much worse than my van outside there. Hey, look at this.
It's an REO Speedwagon, a real one. I love seeing the funky old vintage industrial trucks. Like, look at this old street sweeper over here. Or this beautiful old Ford with a big John Deere corn sheller on the back. They know a thing or two about corn trucking here in Iowa. Ooh, looks like we're getting into some of the older semi-trucks. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen one quite like that before. Here's a pair from the 1950s. They're so clean and well maintained, they almost look modern. But I don't know what in the world I'd do if I saw that coming down the highway at me. I never think of old trucks as being something awesome, but every time I go somewhere where beautiful old vintage trucks are, whether they're cleaned up museum specimens like these or rusty shells in some ghost town, I always think, dang, I want a truck. Wow, that's an old one, an old Mack truck from 1915. The same year my grandpa was born. Yes, he was pretty old when he had my mom, and even older when he had my aunts, twins, in his 50s, I think. My dad is in Generation X, but my mom is technically a baby boomer. And they were only born 4 days apart. I always think about my grandpa, man, born in 1915 in St. Louis. He was in the CCC, which was like a WPA thing during the Great Depression, and actually drove trucks down Route 66 for a while, drove him all the way to Southern California, where for a while we think he worked for his friend's plastic company, doing the same thing, driving. Went back to St. Louis and joined the Navy during World War II. He was on a ship in the Pacific out there, an oil ship actually, the USS Neches, I believe. It's an oiler. Moved to Southern California across the street from Disneyland in 1957 and lived all the way into the 80s, having seen a man on the moon and us playing with Ninja Turtles and Nintendo. I just think about that all the time, born into a world without indoor plumbing, and then watching his grandkids play with Teddy Ruxpin and stuff. What a life. What a life. Phil Finazzo. Anyway, sorry for that digression, but I was just thinking, I wish I had a picture of the kinds of trucks that he used to drive. I know it would have been, 1939, 1940, 41. So I guess depending on how new or old the trucks he was driving were, they could look vastly different. This one's from 1931 right here. That's the crazy thing, right? Our grandparents and our great-grandparents, they saw these things driving down the highway every day. That's what I was on about earlier. It makes me wonder all the time, would they see this the way I would see a room full of 1980s and 90s trucks? Or would they also appreciate that vintage beauty, that industrial design? An interesting question, for sure. Now, this was all the collection, I believe, of Bill Moon, who built this gigantic Raiders of the Lost Ark style warehouse to house his collection, and it's supported by the world's largest truck stop out there, so it's actually free to walk around in, no admission fee. I don't think I ever knew that. If I had known it was free, I probably could have convinced the band to take a little longer here, because I've been in the big truck stop part, but I've never, ever been in the museum. Wow, that is cool. Makes me want to jump inside and take a load of pumpkins down to the market. Overnight, of course, so I can use that sick spotlight. Whoa. There's a beauty. Look at that, 1952 GMC truck. And I love that they have the vintage trailer. That makes all the difference. When you see them with the trailers, somehow it makes them even more impressive. Gosh, Bill Moon really, really loved trucks. Not only all these big ones, but truck toys. There's truck toys everywhere in this place. Although I think these particular displays were a donation from a local. I always see those toy trucks for sale in every truck stop. I always thought if I ever have a kid, I'm gonna buy him some of these toy trucks. Well, I did finally have one. He was interested in toy trains. Couldn't be bothered about toy trucks. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Dude, this is a worthy stop in here. All these trucks, and there's so many vintage signs on the wall I wasn't even paying attention to earlier. You know the American pickers want to get their hands on those. What do you think, Frankie? $20? I'm a bundler. I like to bundle. I'm an oil can guy. Oh, look at this, Frankie. Awesome. Just awesome. Unfortunately, for me, speaking of trucks, I gotta keep on trucking. So before I become a permanent fixture in the museum, I'd better get rolling.
Get out of the way, geese.